Hey guys, it is Shipwreck Samantha here, and today I am going to be doing a little walkthrough of how I made this Maleficent painting illustration thing. It is a redraw of one of the very first digital paintings I ever did, and I wanted to see how far I've come skill-wise, so I decided to do a redraw of it, and I'm really happy with how it came out, and without further ado, let's get to it. So I usually start my drawings from scratch, and I like to have some reference pictures on hand. As you can see here, one of the best techniques I've learned that I've started doing recently is while I'm sketching, I am constantly flipping the drawing back and forth, kind of like reversing it, so that way I can make sure it's completely symmetrical, because even if a drawing looks fine, if you reverse it, then it may look completely off if you try it the other way around. So constantly flipping it back and forth is a great way to make sure you are drawing it accurately. After I finished the sketch, I made a separate layer and drew the base color. Now I am doing the base shading, which I do extremely dark at first, and then I lower the opacity afterwards. Next, I'm doing a second layer of shading, which is a little more defined and in smaller areas than the last one was, which was more of the overall shading. And then I just go and lay down some highlights. For this, I'm really just focusing on the face and the skin in general. I'm not focusing on anything else at this second. So I'm just working my way around the face. I did the lips and the shading, and now I'm working on the eyes. So I did a lot of separate layers for this, and at the end of the video, I'm going to do a little walkthrough of the different layers and how I was able to do all this, because to make sure that none of the different colors and the different parts of the painting didn't coexist with each other. Now I moved up to the horns, where I did base shading. I took my blending tool and made it extremely small and just dragged out the color of the dark all the way up the horns, which made the folded leather look, or the beginning of it, because I was doing just shading. And this, like I said, was on a separate layer than the color itself, so everything was easy to deal with and not have anything smearing or blending together, which is what I really love about digital drawing, is because you can have layers that don't coexist with each other, which is really comes in handy. Next, I put in the base highlights, so just an overall highlighted look, and then I went with another layer of more brighter highlights, which I then took the blending tool and streaked pieces in there to go with the leather look once again, and continued with that look of the wrapping around. Now, overall with this drawing, you can definitely tell by the reference picture that I did not make this 100% realistic, but I wanted to do it in my own style to where I wasn't worried about making it realistic, but I was doing it through my own filter, as I like to say, because I was doing it the way I saw it. I made her eyes a little bigger. I didn't like how pale she was in the picture, so I added a little more color to her complexion, and overall it was just really what I thought it should look like and not what the picture looked like, which I really encourage for other artists to do, to find your own style and find what you see in things and not what it is, which I really recommend doing. So overall, that's it for the drawing part, and now I'm going to break down all the different layers I did for the picture itself. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing a quick little walkthrough of all the different elements that it took to do my Maleficent drawing. So I'm going to open the app. It's called Procreate, in case you're looking to get it. And I'm going to open up Maleficent. Just takes a second to load. So now I'm going to break down the different elements for this drawing. So the great thing about digital art is it is done in layers. So I have, it looks like, it says I have a total of 22 layers, some that you don't even see on this drawing, that I have in different layers. So from top to bottom is how it is seen. So if you have one layer beneath another, it is going to visually be underneath, if that makes sense. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to start with the simplest thing, which is I'm going to take away the base color. And this is what you see. So this shows just how important it is to do shading and highlights, because this is no color, this is just the shading and highlights right here. To make this make more sense, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put the color back and take away all the shading and the highlights, because I can remove these layers and then put them back later. So I'm taking these all down. So this is what it looks like before I did anything to it. Now, starting from the bottom, I did the base shading. Now this is on a very low opacity. That means that it is not 100% solid. So this is what it looks like when it is not on its, I believe, 30% opacity is what I have it on. I just do separate shading and highlights for everything. So for the lips, I have lip shading, lip highlights, and then I have the iris shading, and then the iris didn't have any highlights, but then I have the eyeshadow. Move on to the horns. So the horns, with the shading, it's not as noticeable as the highlights. So this is just highlights, and then just shading. So I hope that helped to break everything down for you. I have this sketch, which is not visible in the finished drawing, but this is what I used as reference when I did the overall color. I'm just going to bring all of these layers back and all put together. So I hope this was helpful to you in understanding a little more on how beneficial it can be to break down layers in your drawing. I don't always do layers. Sometimes I do everything in one layer because it's a little more challenging. But I hope overall this was helpful to you in understanding a little more of the breakdown and all of that. So don't forget to subscribe and join my pirate crew, and I will see you guys next Friday.